Yo, everybody. Welcome to the Facilitators training. So hopefully you have a physical copy of the Facilitator guide. That would be ideal, just like it's ideal to have a physical copy of the participant workbook. But if you don't, for whatever reason, you can get them on Amazon. And if for whatever reason you cannot afford them, let us know and we'll figure out, we can find a way to get you a physical copy or at least give you the PDF if nothing else. So we just want to make sure that in addition to these slides that you have some sort of guide, whether it be digital or physical, to keep with you and take notes on and all that stuff. Especially one reason why it's great to have a physical copy is because you'll want to, customize the way that you do the classes and add notes and ideas and stuff in there. And it's good to just have a copy of something to keep with you to help you facilitate each class that has kind of your customization notes written in it. But anyway, the facilitator guide is exactly the same layout, the same document pretty much as the participant workbook, except for it has that facilitator information added throughout in red. Instead of creating like a whole separate thing with just that information, we wanted to overlay it with the participant workbook information. That way it just flows in order, so it's as easy to implement as possible. So this is also why the facilitation guide only has a color version. Because obviously if it was all black and white, it would be hard to differentiate between the information that's just from the workbook and the information that's specifically for the facilitators. The participant workbook does have a black and white copy, a PDF version of that if you need that for whatever reason. If you don't want to get physical copies that are in color and you need to like print them out in a cheaper way, we have that available. So let us know if you need that for whatever reason. This curriculum is meant to be flexible and customizable for your specific participants, and the time that you have available to you for classes and how you structure the classes is ultimately up to you and what meets the needs of the participants you'll be working with and the organization that you may work for, all that stuff. So the first general, so each section has specific facilitation guidance for that section, but what we're about to go over is just the general facilitation guidance, for the whole curriculum. So the first one is that we want you to customize this curriculum with your cultural beliefs, your cultural terms, your practices that align with these principles. Please feel free to expand upon the concepts discussed in any of the sections based on your knowledge and wisdom. So this curriculum is based specifically off of, Cherokee cultural wisdom and practices. Obviously, a lot of the beliefs that come from, Cherokee cultural beliefs are things that are shared from a lot of other cultures as well. But it is specifically based on that. And so we want you to feel like you can customize it to whatever resonates with you as well. So if you want to be able to add in some, ideas that go along with the principles from your practices, your culture, your belief system, please do that. I think you'll find that a lot of information that comes from different cultures has a lot of shared components. So like, for example, things like gratitude, right? That's not teaching people to be grateful is not specifically a Cherokee thing. That is very strong within Cherokee wisdom, but is also a huge part of a lot of other cultures and structures of belief in general. So customize it however you need to for your particular population. So this curriculum is intended to be trauma informed. This means that as facilitators, we are aware of the generational and personal trauma that many participants have faced and have stored in their bodies and minds. And we aim to acknowledge this as we discuss these principles, given the likely impact that trauma has had on their ability to implement each principle. For example, many harmful coping mechanisms are developed in response to traumatic experiences and not knowing how to cope with them in a more adaptive way. Additionally, many individuals with trauma histories find it very difficult to view themselves positively and are therefore struggling with being willing and able to engage in self-care. While this curriculum is not intended to directly treat trauma, we do hope that it can serve as a helpful component of a trauma recovery journey, both individually and collectively. It is always important to encourage participants with trauma histories to seek out professional trauma therapy if they have access and feel comfortable doing so. Number 3, at the beginning of the training, you can set expectations for the group to help facilitate discussions and participant interactions in a healthy and productive manner. This can include everyone committing to being open-minded and respectful of differing beliefs in the group and speaking to each other with care and compassion. The THINK acronym from the communication section can be very helpful for setting these ground rules. This can also include letting participants know that while their verbal participation is encouraged and appreciated, they are never expected to answer questions out loud or participate in discussions if they are uncomfortable doing so. It is helpful to have participants come up with group guidelines they would like to add to facilitate respect during the training. That's good for any groups that you're running or trainings that you're running in general, but definitely apply that to this as well. Number 4, read through the cultural teaching and the supporting psychological knowledge sections for each principle first, and invite participants to discuss any thoughts they have about the material, either in this workbook or in the full book that Abraham wrote. Each section includes a space for you and the participants to identify the cultural and familial teachings and practices for each principle that may be specific to you. You can invite participants to discuss their existing beliefs and practices on each topic. While these sections are more didactic, try to generally focus on making the curriculum discussion and experiential based. The goal is to include and engage the participants in as much of the material as time permits. Go slowly through the practical application sections, pausing to give participants time to answer reflection questions. You may not have time to discuss each one, but you can identify which questions you would like to spend more time on and invite participants to share and discuss their answers. Be aware that some questions may be more sensitive to discuss than others, such as when they are asked to identify how their inner critic developed. Their inner critic may have been formed by an abusive caregiver, for an example, so it would be better to avoid asking participants to discuss their answers to questions like these to allow for more privacy. Encourage participants to go back through this section on their own when they have time to reflect more on each question and review the other items that may have been covered quickly due to time constraints. You are also welcome to add additional practices that you know of if you have extra time, especially experiential stuff. If you have any creative experiential ways to practice these things, take people outside or we do crafts and stuff, obviously in the community groups that we facilitate, but whatever works for you is fine. Just make it as engaging and creative and experiential as you can. And then when all principles have been covered, the last tasks for the course are to give each participant time to create their individual action plan and write a letter of commitment to themselves. Instructions on how to guide participants through these tasks will be provided later in this guide.